So out of the frying pan and into the fire. I have just come home from Greenland, landed here in Denmark 2 hours ago, started packing up all my stuff, but there is a lunar eclipse tonight that I'm going to photograph because it is serving itself on a silver platter for me, given I get clear skies. If you see this, it should have worked out. I'm so ahead with videos in this period, and I promise I'll continue my series from Germany, and I also have a video from Greenland upcoming. You definitely do not want to miss those. But with this blood moon being such a significant event, I'm releasing it a bit out of chronological order. Be sure to subscribe if you still haven't and don't want to miss out on all the epic videos and photos to come. The bazooka. So the sun is setting right now, although behind a cloud. And because it's a lunar eclipse and the sun set is in that way, means that the moon rise is straight in front of me right here. I've come down to a lighthouse here on Zealand, one that I've actually not photographed before, but with a red moon, blood moon rising just behind the lighthouse, it was quite obvious to choose that location, especially because, as you can see here in the background, I just have like a field here in front and then I have the lighthouse right there. So it seems to me that this here is somewhat the belt of Venus, so I should have a clear horizon to photograph the moonrise and the lunar eclipse, of course. My setup for tonight is my Sony a7R5 and then my Sony 100 to 400 millimeter. It's a tiny bit sharper than my Tamron 50 to 400, so I just go with this one. And as you can see, for the first time in I do not know how many years, I have taken out the 2x teleconverter. And as you can see right now, I've zoomed quite a lot in, so I'm at 350 millimeter times 2. So right now zoomed into 700 millimeter. It may be a little bit too zoomed in, but it's nice to have this flexibility to get the moon either behind the lighthouse, next to the lighthouse, or something to that extent. So I did a little bit more research to make sure that this location would actually work, that the moon would be behind the lighthouse and it would make sense size-wise. So the moon is like half a degree in the size of the 360 degrees around us here. And I asked Google Gemini, not that I cannot do the math myself, I was just too lazy to look up how exactly I should do it, but I needed to know how big the lighthouse is of those 360 degrees. And it turned out the lighthouse is about 3 degrees, and that is actually the exact same height, plus a little more that the moon should have above the horizon when the full lunar eclipse, or when the lunar eclipse is at its maximum. So it ought to work together here. But of course the lighthouse is a little bit above the ocean, above the sea, because I'm actually at some cliffs. So the horizon is just below. I will have to move my setup here a little bit around, a little bit to one side, a little bit to the other side. But math-wise, angle-wise, perspective-wise, it ought to work together. I should be able to get the moon and the lighthouse in the same shot. The one thing, however, I do not like about this composition is that it is just such an awkward composition, because from my angle here, whether I go a little bit to one side, a little bit to the other side, the lighthouse will be like half cut by a foreground tree. If I move a little bit over, then I can like get rid of those trees, but I'm not sure that angle will actually work with the lunar eclipse. So I have to be maybe a little bit over here. It's a little bit hard to say. I've never shot this before. I've actually never photographed a lunar eclipse before, and it's very, very minimal what I have done of moon landscape photography. So it's of course quite exciting. Settings wise, I am just going with the flow. I do think I will have to up my ISO a little bit because of the 2x extender and shooting at this focal length, maybe if I zoom a little bit out, I can maybe get, no, my aperture will have to be around like f11-ish, and optimally I would like to close it down a little bit just to get it sharper. And right now that's a shutter speed of 1/6 of a second, and the moon is not even in the shot yet. It's not even like coming up yet. So I will probably have to up the ISO a little bit just to have a somewhat fast shutter speed to get a sharp photo of both the lighthouse and the moon in the background. So getting the shot with the lighthouse and the moon, so far so good. I'm alone. There may be other photographers. I can see there's one like over there. Maybe I'll have to go over there too. I'm not entirely sure. And there's a lot of people down by the cliffs. This is Stevns Cliffs. I've actually been here before on my channel, not photographing the lighthouse, but a little bit further down. There was this massive storm coming in from the east, and I photographed the cliffs of Stevns. You can see that video up here in the corner somewhere. With everything set up, I was ready for the moon to show itself. While standing here, more and more people arrived, but luckily I did have this shooting location for myself. So, 2010 Lunar Eclipse maximum here in Denmark, and I cannot see the moon. It should be somewhere behind the lighthouse. It's just not, at least not visible. So those high clouds, they are sadly a little bit too strong. And obviously here in the background, the clouds are lava. But there you go. That is also a part of landscape photography. Disappointment. And let me just stop myself right there. I don't know why I do it, but sometimes I can, a little too quickly, draw a pessimist conclusion. Obviously, with the moon being at the maximum in Earth's shadow, it is quite dark, and since we were still in civil twilight, just a few minutes after sunset, it just wasn't dark enough. Just yet. But I do not like to go home empty-handed. After all, I've driven all the way down here. So I've come a little bit further up the road, and then I am getting myself... people are driving fast here. And then I'm going to get myself a blue hour shot of the lighthouse. Now that there's also light in it. Looks really nice. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So what is happening right now is that the moon is actually coming out, and I can just like barely make it out. Obviously, it is, because it's a lunar eclipse, it's quite dark red, but it's there. I do not know what to do to make it stand out more. But, well, I guess I got the shot. Okay, just moving forward, getting a bit closer. It's good that it's autumn now, so the field has been harvested. But a little bit closer, and I can still have the moon above the lighthouse. Nice. And here's the first photo of the lunar eclipse. As I'd moved closer to the lighthouse, I decided to skip the 2x extender. This also gave me the option to open the aperture even more. It did come with a drawback. I seem to have opened the aperture a tad too much, and that, in combination with atmospheric disturbances, the moon came out a bit on the soft side. I really should have checked that depth of field table first and got two photos, one sharp of the lighthouse and one as sharp as possible of the moon with the ability to focus stack afterwards. Oh well. So it's really getting dark right now. I'm trying to keep the ISO down. I've taken off the 2x converter, so I just have the lens on and I've zoomed into 400mm right now. Make sure that I can open the aperture more. I get a shutter speed of half a second or so. the moon is moving so fast over the sky when you're shooting at these focal lengths. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, but yeah. What I'm doing is I'm moving a little bit forward, putting down the camera, putting on the intervalometer to just like hammer off maybe 10 shots, and I'm moving a little bit forward again and just keep doing that. The maximum, the totality of the lunar eclipse is somewhat over, but it's actually okay because the moon is moon shaped in that red color, which looks really nice. I actually have to correct myself here, as the totality wasn't over yet. It was just the maximum of the totality that was over. I had also moved closer to the lighthouse to keep the distance between the moon and the lighthouse down. It was admittedly quite frantic having to reposition myself, recompose and then refocus all the time. So there is a bit of a lack of B-roll in this video. I tried my different compositions and focal lengths, and in this example went with the rule of thirds composition, where I balanced the photo by having the lighthouse and the moon on either side of the middle of the photo. If you want to learn more about composition, be sure to get my ebooks on that subject. With minimal text and tons of examples, they're super easy to read. I cover everything from balance and focal lengths to depth, geometry and showing scale, and in the last chapter in both ebooks I put everything together that I have covered. There is a link to both ebooks and my ebook all about light and what light you can capture in landscape photography down in the description of the video. So it's really dark now. I've been running around like a frantic and we are getting out of totality, which in and of itself is actually utterly fascinating. So the moon is moving out of Earth's shadow right now, which means that just one side, it's the same as that like diamond ring phenomenon around a solar eclipse, where just one side of the moon, just the edge, is becoming really, really bright. Like so bright that I'm overexposing it, clipping the highlights here on my photo. And honestly, I can see the moon, and then I can barely see the lighthouse, and of course I can see the light from the lighthouse. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of editing to get this one right, but nevertheless, it still looks really pretty. The difference between the shadows and highlights in this last one was so big, but I do think I managed to pull out a pretty good result, and just like with the previous photos, I love how the beams of the lighthouse shine out to either side. I generally kept the editing in these photos to a somewhat minimum, a bit of noise reduction, cleaning up the foreground and a few flares, balancing of the light, contrast and colors, and a tiny bit of local adjustments on the moon. And if you want to learn how to edit your photos, be sure to enroll in my huge 20 plus hours and 30 plus videos post-processing course. It is here I teach you how I edit my photos, all the techniques from actually using the programs over masking, cleaning your photos, focus stacking, to advanced blending of several exposures. Be sure to use the discount code, which you can find down in the description of the video, along with a link to both the course and my ebooks on light and composition. As always, a massive thanks to all of you who support my work by buying my educational material. Without you, I couldn't do this for a living, so a big thank you, and see you next time.